Oops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Mr. Christensen, Mr. McGregor,
Present.
Mr. Modrak,
Here.
Mr. Nagel,
Here.
Mrs. Rule,
Here.
Mr. Scalzo,
Here.
Mr. Spacuzza,
Present.
Mrs. Turner,
Here.
Mrs. Dobos,
Here.
8 members present.
Good evening. During this time, we'd like to have a formal recognition. Each month during the school year, the school board seeks to recognize some of the outstanding achievements within the Bethel Park School District. Tonight's recognition is of Bethel Park High School's production of this year's school musical, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. As you know, the pandemic wiped out most of last year's performances and created all kinds of hurdles for this year's show as well. However, through sheer will and determination, as well as a little creativity, they pulled it off and gave our community a lift at a time when we really needed one. With us tonight to discuss the show and all that it entailed is the show's director, Todd Kazawa, and some special guests. Mr. Kazawa. Face that, yeah.
Hello, everyone.
The camera's above the exit. So.
Got it. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. We very much appreciate being invited here this evening, and we very much appreciate the support from the school board and from our administration to be able to put on the performance this year of the musical. Here, I should call it closer. I should know that. Okay. We, and by we I mean the students as well, recognize how important it is for us to be able to continue making music in our school this year, and that recognizing several of our neighboring schools have not been able to do that this year, and they were not able to put on either a musical at all or put on a live performance, and they streamed or recorded it, and we are very grateful for that, and that is not lost on us, and that made a difference in all of our lives, and hopefully the people who saw the show as well for that. It was a little different this year, the show, but we really made it work with everything we did. Student safety led every decision that we made for our musical this year. Our focus in choosing the show was what would give us the most flexibility to be able to put on the show regardless of what our restrictions were at the time, as they were constantly changing throughout the process. Last year we were shut down a few days before our opening, so student safety was our top priority in all stages when we were planning the auditions and the rehearsals and then the performances and every aspect of the show. Some of those factors included finding something that was a smaller show for cast, stage crew, and orchestra, with less students involved with this for this year, keeping the scenery very simple and minimal. We were prepared to do it outside if we needed to, and also nothing romantic in the show. It sounds silly, but it was going to be hard to kiss with masks on. So we found something. Our technical director, Jess Koval, she suggested spelling bee, and I was not familiar with it, got to know it, and fell in love with it, and realized why it was so perfect for us to do this year. There are several other schools doing it as well, because it is really a good choice for this year. We made the decision to go with a live show, be it inside or outside, not stream it. It actually wasn't an option for this particular show anyway, but the live theater needs the interaction with the audience, and this performance especially was very funny, and it needed that interaction with the audience. So we made that decision that we were going to do it live, inside or outside. The students were so wonderful to work with. I never had to ask them once to put on or pull up a mask. They were doing everything in their power to keep this show going at all times. And it made me very happy after talking to them about this early on when I would see them pull up for rehearsal and there might be 2 students in the car sharing a ride, and they both had masks on in their car because they were 2 different students in the same car. And that's when I knew they were taking it so seriously. And throughout their hard work really paid off so much, and we had 4 wonderful shows, made a lot of people laugh who joined us for the shows, and we opened up 2 of our last rehearsals, one for students and one for the district staff. Normally district staff gets complimentary tickets to the show, but with the limited capacity that wasn't going to be an option, so we opened up our last 2 rehearsals for them to be able to come, and it was nice to have an audience for them. Unlike most musicals that require you to stick to the script of what is written in the script, the authors of this show encouraged the performers to incorporate current day events into the show. So it was really nice to be able to do that and be able to acknowledge the situation and the precautions that we were in. We were singing in masks, and we were able to incorporate that into the show with their permission. So that was really very, very nice. It all wouldn't have been possible without the support of the school board here approving us to do this show, trusting us that we would do it safely and we could make it happen safely. Our administration, from Dr. J and Janet and Mrs. Wells and Dr. Walsh, they were very supportive along the whole way. Poor Joe Villani is so tired of me calling or texting him, asking him, can we rehearse today, depending on what the situation was. He got a lot of those. We had a lot of parents behind the scenes, and most importantly, the students. Their hard work and commitment really just helped to bring me out of the fog, and I think a lot of them that we've been in for the last time. I also need to especially acknowledge Jess Cope, our technical director, and everything behind the scenes for spending more time than I was there with scenery, lighting, sound, and everything that goes along with our musical. At the same time, she is also directing and running the play by herself and working the many dance companies that are there now on the weekends. I'm glad she came tonight because she actually today was her kind of day off, but I appreciate her coming. And the placement of our microphones this year with the plastic masks were a huge challenge. They caused everything to sound like this. And she literally took the microphone at every rehearsal and was moving it every night. For every actor, it was different. And she would not let up until we found the right spot for every person so we could understand what they were saying in the show. Sorry, unlike me with the microphone. So, we to say that we would not have been able to get through it without her and her expertise this year would be a huge understatement. We talk with the students every year about how collaborative the musical is with stage crew and cast and orchestra, and this year just proved that more so than any other year. And I'm grateful to be able to work with so many great people, students and adults, and we're very, very grateful for that. I brought 2 of our students who were 2 of the many leads. It was an ensemble show, so there weren't 2 big main leads, and then other ones. It was a very ensemble show, a lot of equal parts. But Olivia and Colin had leads in prior shows and have a little maybe insight into differences and what we were able to do this year.
Hi guys, so my name is Colin McCormick. Me and Liv are seniors at Bethel Park, and as Mr. Gonzalez said, we really want to thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it. So yes, there was, of course, some challenges to come along with it. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but I can collectively say that not just us, but the entire cast was so incredibly grateful to have the opportunity once again to perform, because that's what, Mr. Casey's how many kids come through a year, and that's what we love, and we very much appreciate all of your support, and Mr. Kazawa and Ms. Koval, both of your support too. And as well, there was some extreme changes, the mask was a change, and singing without the full ensemble, because there was 21 to 24 actual actors in the show. But like I said, we all worked as hard as we could, and I'm so grateful, and yeah, so I'm passed off to Liv.
Hi, my name is Olivia Vituccio. Yeah, the show was a lot different this year without having the big ensemble and all those other people around and just everything about the aspect of the show. But we were able to make so much, just the fact that we were able to produce a show at all, we were so grateful for. And it being a small cast, we were able to form strong connections with every single one of the members of the show, which I think a lot of us are grateful for, especially with having, we had people from every grade level in it, and I think we all grew as people throughout the show, and so I think that is what we are most grateful for in being able to perform this year. So thank you for the opportunity.
I just want to say a quick thank you for the opportunity. As everyone else has mentioned, it was quite the challenge this year. Liv and Colin can attest to them standing on stage, making them say lines over and over again just to make sure that they were EQ'd properly. But also for the stage crew, their hard work and dedication and rising to the challenges. The patience of the actors when we had issues come up that were caused by our restrictions, but everyone pulled together. And the best part about live theater is the interaction with the community, with the audience. So we were lucky to get that this year. Unfortunately, last year we were shut down just before, but as everyone has said, we are just grateful for the opportunity to get to do a show this year. So thank you.
We also, I forgot the one part. The show calls for 4 audience spellers every night in the show. And originally in the fall, we're like, we can't do audience spellers. We can't have them come up on stage with us. As we went through it, we realized, oh, okay, vaccination's coming out. So we made the decision to go with vaccinated teachers and administrators for the audience spellers to come on up. And that was so much fun. That was an unplanned accident that worked out so well. The students had a great time working with teachers and our administrators who came up on stage, and that was a lot of fun to interact with them. And that was another just very interesting part about what we were able to do. So thank you very much again. I don't know if anybody had any questions for us, but thank you very much for supporting us.
Thank you, Mr. Kazawa and crew. That concludes tonight's recognition portion of the school board meeting. Thank you. I'd like to remind the public that there are 2 ways for public comments to be made. One is to call us at 412-851-6911, and the other is to fill out the Google form that is available in the board section of the web page. And click on the link to fill out the form. I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda for business items.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Rule and seconded by Mr. Spacuzza.
Voting is open. Motion carries.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of May 18th, 21.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Modrak.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGregor.
Voting is open. Motion carries.
I'd like to announce executive sessions for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information on May 18th, 2021 and May 25th, 2021. We now have some reports. The first report would be from student government. Mr. Lippert and Mr. Zelt, I believe you're on.
Hello.
Hi.
Just a few weeks ago, SGA had the opportunity to conduct its Staff App Week, where we were able to have multiple events appreciating the work of the staff and teachers at Bethel Park High School, some of which included the teacher luncheon, the lunch lady luncheon, and breakfast for bus drivers. We are so happy we were able to make this happen this year, and we hope to continue this tradition into the future. Another thing SGA has been working on is its transition of executive members and Senate members. And as part of that, we would like to introduce a student board representative that will be taking place next year.
Hi, my name's Nia Castano, and I'm going to be a junior next year at the high school. I'm really looking forward to working with all of you next year, hopefully in person and in some better circumstances.
Okay, welcome,
Yeah.
Mia.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of SGA this year. I've truly enjoyed the experience. And yeah, that concludes our update. Thank you.
And I think the second person who will be representing us will be introduced next month.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. We have a PTO report. Miss Tiffany Driscoll.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm going to start with Lincoln Elementary. Families of Lincoln and the PTO were able to show their gratitude to the teachers and staff during Teacher Appreciation Week by providing lunch, treats, and raffling off baskets. They hope the staff knows how much they love and appreciate them. Thank you to all the families who generously donated. We had our last Spirit Day on May the 4th. Students and staff wore Star Wars gear to show how out of this world they are. The Lincoln Garden has been very busy. A special thank you to Mrs. Dios for leading the posse of planters who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Everything harvested will be donated to SHIM. Things are really starting to sprout. The second most taco kit fundraiser went well, and they were able to raise about $200. A Kona ice truck will be visiting the last week of school. All students and staff will be getting ice courtesy of the PTO as a send-off to this crazy year. The next one's from Ben Franklin Elementary. Ben Franklin is finishing out the year with yearbooks for all students, a socially distant art and science fair on June 4th, a send-off parade for fourth graders, and a virtual graduation for kindergartners. George Washington Elementary. George Washington has been very busy with end-of-the-year activities. Student Appreciation Week was May 3rd to the 7th. Students were treated to a scavenger hunt, Dairy Queen treats, extra recess time, a free dessert coupon, dress-up days, and the virtual assembly about robots. The following week was Teacher Appreciation Week. Teachers and staff were treated to breakfast, a barbecue lunch, pepperoni rolls, many treats and snacks, and a special coupon to redeem at the food truck event. Both weeks were a success and were enjoyed by all. Books on the subject of autism, acceptance, and awareness were donated to the school library in honor of a Bethel Park student with autism. A coin collection for Smiles for Sean, a childhood cancer charity, has gone on all month. George Washington just wrapped up a gift card fundraiser with Pittsburgh Flora Garden and had a Chick-fil-A Spirit Day last week. The PTO has planned a fourth grade picnic at South Park to send off the fourth graders to Neil Armstrong. This will take place in June. Every Friday this month, the school had a food truck event, Food Truck Fridays. This has been a huge hit with families as well as others in the community. They plan to continue this for the next year. The PTO will select the recipients of their scholarship in the next few weeks. Memorial Elementary. Just finished up the last fundraiser of the year, which was Spirit Wear and Signs. For the sign fundraiser, we sold signs saying, "We love our school, we love our teachers, my teacher is my hero, and heroes work here." The fundraiser not only did very well, but directly connected to Teacher Appreciation Week. On Teacher Appreciation Week, they had a superhero theme where they sent in coffee, snacks, and lunch for the teachers to enjoy. That Wednesday, all teachers were given superhero capes to wear, and their students were their sidekicks, each wearing their favorite superhero shirt. It was a lot of fun. Right now, the Memorial PTA is hard at work making sure the end of the school year closes on a positive note. Fourth grade activities committee has made the fourth graders school shirts, made sure every fourth grader receives a yearbook this year, and is working on making a fourth grade scrapbook. The scrapbook is made up of pages for each fourth grader and fourth grade teacher, and each fourth grader will get a copy of the scrapbook the last week of school. We are also looking forward to next year and hoping it will look more like a typical school year. We've had our last PTA meeting yesterday, electing in our PTA board and getting committee chairs in order for next school years. Lastly, the current PTA would like to thank all of our parents, students, and staff for all their hard work this year. Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong is winding down the year and preparing for the transition to their incoming board. Plans are underway for a few special surprises for students at the end of the year. Battle of the Books is this week, and thank you to Mr. Glimick. I'm sorry if I pronounced these names wrong. Mr. Glimick and Mrs. Ladner for taking this on and making it happening. The current PTO board is very thankful for the staff and NAMS, students, families, administration, and the school board for all the hard work and support throughout the school year. We really appreciate you. Independence Middle School. Teacher Appreciation COVID-friendly lunch was May 5th. The teachers loved how lunches were prepackaged with a half sub, salad, chips, and a drink. The teachers also expressed much excitement when trying to win one of the gift cards from the 33 raffle bags. Parents were very generous in sending in gift cards to make this possible. On June 10th, the PTSO organized hamburgers and hot dogs for the lunch menu. Rita's Ice prepackaged cups will also be given out at lunchtime. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all that the PTO and PTOs did this year. I'm assuming you won't have a report next month, or maybe?
I don't
You don't
believe
know.
so.
Okay, all right, we'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, solicitor report?
Thank you, Mrs. Dobus. I just have a few items. I think, as everybody is probably aware, some shifting has occurred with the requirements for masking of vaccinated individuals. There's now an exemption in place under the universal masking order. At WBK, we've been working with our client school districts to navigate that. We had an announcement, I believe it was last week, from the CDC that masking does need to remain in place for public school districts for the remainder of the school year, but we certainly anticipate that over the summer, the PDE and the CDC will be issuing new guidelines, which, just like last summer, we will be staying on top of and communicating to our school-based clients. There are a few interesting pieces of legislation that are coming through the General Assembly at this point in time. They don't have much time left on their current session. One of those pieces of legislation recommends that students be able to continue and receive an additional year of learning because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's SB 664. So we're going to continue to monitor those pieces of legislation and communicate with clients. And I had a few other legal updates which were provided in the executive session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Dr. Walsh, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I had invited Dr. O'Rourke here to present some updated information about the summer learning programs, but she is ill, so I'm going to cover for her tonight and tell you what we have. At your seats should have been a colorful handout, one-pager with some of the facts and figures that we have about our summer learning program, number of students participating, the kinds of services requested from our surveys, and bits and pieces about the curricular program that we have lined up for delivery. There are two motions for your consideration related to the summer program. The first will be for you to appoint the staff that have signed up or submitted themselves to be considered for working in the summer program as teachers, tutors, paras. And the second motion is to approve the curricular programs and software necessary for us to execute the plans we have. Want to thank as I'm saying this now, thank the committee of teachers and administrators that participated in the selection of these programs and tools that we'll have available for students and families beginning at the end of, at the close of this school year for the summer. Even if they're not participating in a tutoring program, they could partake in the Study Island program, et cetera. So we're close. We're almost ready to launch. Thanks to Dr. O'Rourke for shepherding this through the entire process, and hope that she feels better soon. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions about this sheet of paper, or we can wait to ask her?
You could wait to ask.
Just quick question. We're going from June 15th to July 1st. Okay.
Mic on, sorry. Those are for the in-person programs, on-campus programs. If you're doing credit recovery, you have the whole summer. If you're tutoring, you have throughout the whole summer. The counseling services will be all summer. Access to Study Island is all summer. So it's just those are the dates for the in-person activities.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, I don't see any public comments. Oh, yes, I do.
There
Are
are
there-
two,
is
but
there-
they don't have to do with the agenda items.
Okay, are there any phone calls?
There are not, no phone calls.
Okay, so the responses we'll read at the end then. Okay, we have 24 items in the consent agenda for approval. The high school elective courses, the change in the school calendar making graduation on a Friday night, extra duty responsibility program for this year, resignations, leave of absence, appointment of personnel, another leave of absence, salaries, financial report, budgetary transfers, PSBA membership dues renewal, approval of Steel Center for career and technical education budgets. Did we move? Oh, I didn't refresh. Investment provider, approval of proposal, approval of Follett Asset Manager, approval of Follett Destiny Library Manager, approval of the purchase of information technology equipment, approval of technology lease agreement, approval of policies, revision to policies, policy rescinds, selection of the voting delegates for the PSBA assembly meeting, and student agreements. Can I have a second for those?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nagel. Do we have any questions on any of these items?
Can we hold out 18 and 19?
No, you're holding out 17 and 18.
Which one?
You're not holding out the final readings.
17 and
17 and 18.
Oh, 17 and 18. 19,
To put
but
them into the business, to put them in under the business agenda, or to discuss,
19 is
or?
approval of lease agreement. Doesn't 19 say approval of technology lease?
18.
I have it 19.
You have to refresh.
Refresh.
We pulled one item out.
Okay, hold on, let me refresh. I'm not seeing the same thing.
I'm gonna need some help here, Amy.
Okay, it's 17 and 18.
Are you asking to move them to the Finance Committee? Are you asking to discuss them, or,
Discuss.
well, we can always discuss them.
Well, I don't want to vote for them, meaning that I'm a no, so, you know,
You'd move them to the finance.
then move them to the finance.
Okay, can we move those? We didn't do that. We should have done that in intent to adopt agenda at the beginning of the meeting, but can we move them to the Finance at this time, Ms.
If you
Sundell?
just want to take a separate vote on those two items.
You can do that?
I'll have to adjust it after the fact because I'm already in the
Okay.
meeting, so I can't make edits on the fly.
Okay, so we'll vote on 1 through
16?
16, or 15, or wait,
16.
16. 1 through 16, and then 19 through
24 or 23.
23. Okay, I need a second to do that.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Any discussion of those 21 items?
Voting is open. Motion carries.
Okay, 17, approval of the purchase of information technology equipment 21-22 budget. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Questions about this?
I do have a question. So last time I think we talked about this, I thought that the laptop was twice the amount as the Chromebook, but it doesn't look that way.
It's not quite, it's not
Well,
twice.
I thought it was explained that it would be near double, very close to double. So what I'm saying is that the Chromebook is, I think, inferior compared to like the PC. And if we're trying to look for consistency, doing the math, I think it's about $52,500 in order to have, PCs for grades 7 through 8. So having consistency from 7 through 12, making sure that we have a powerful machine for all of those students, you're really looking at $52,500. I mean, when you take a step back, I mean, the boardroom, $75,000 was spent on the boardroom.
I think after we had discussions with the principals, I think it was the middle school principal that did not desire to have laptops. They preferred having Chromebooks.
I'm just looking at it from a consistency standpoint. I remember that, we've discussed it even as a board, try to have more consistency throughout the technology from 7 through 12, or even as much as we possibly can. And I just look at the cost, and it just doesn't seem like it's that much when you're really looking at 300 PCs compared to like the 300 Chromebooks.
It's about 52.5.
52.5, right, exactly.
Just to keep in mind, though, this is just one of the multi-years in the process. So we're going to come back again next year for additional Chromebook lease. And again, we have this structured in a way that we're going to phase this over time. This isn't the whole middle school need. This is just one grade level. So the number you quoted there would be just 1 year's difference in cost. But please know that we're going to do this again next year for another 300 and another 300 until we have it all replaced. And
Go ahead.
we did take into consideration the consistency factor, but we heard very clearly from faculty and students that vetted these, as well as the administrator, that they are just as productive with the Chromebook than compared to the high school, which we thought would want Chromebooks, but there's so much more sophisticated software that wouldn't work on a Chromebook. We wanted to go onto the more expensive laptop for the high school for that particular reason, but everybody else that was involved in this felt very confident about Chromebooks for those students and for the purposes they would need the one-to-one device.
Okay, I was just making sure because I didn't want to shortchange like that group of students. If they really feel, if the staff really feels, the students really feel the recommendation that this is going to work, then I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to sound like we're compromising for financial reasons. Everybody was very satisfied with continuing a one-to-one Chromebook initiative all the way through 8th grade.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on this topic? Okay, Mr. McCausland?
Okay, I'm going to have to do a voice roll call on this one because I don't have it set up in the system.
Okay.
So, Mr. McGregor? Here. Mr. Modrak?
Yes.
Mr. Nagel?
Yes.
Mrs. Rule?
Yes.
Mr. Scalzo?
Yes.
Mr. Spicuzza?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Dobos?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the approval of the technology lease agreement, number 18. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Any questions or comments on this? This is related to the previous
Right.
Yeah, that's,
one, right. Can we just do a aye, not,
You can do all in favor if you wish.
a voice? Okay. All in favor? Please say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Scalzo, Curriculum Committee.
All right, under Curriculum Committee, we have 3 items. First item, I would like to move curriculum facilitators for 2021-2022.
Need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Any comments or questions regarding these names or these positions? Okay,
Voting is open. Motion carries.
I'd like to move item 2, Fort Hays State University student teacher contract.
Second.
seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. Any questions? Where is Fort Hays State?
You took my question, Pam.
Isn't that in Kansas?
Is it Kansas? Okay.
Yeah, I think it is Kansas.
And I'm going to
Somebody
believe
must
this,
really want to come here.
I'm going to believe this is a student-teacher situation.
Student teacher, yes. Okay.
Voting is open.
Kansas. Thank you, Google.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Number 3, purchase of programs.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGregor. Questions about this?
Why is the contract running the way it is running? Is it because of when we're starting summer programs? Is that why we're running June to May?
Right, so we could have it ready for the first day
Okay.
of summer for those that are going to do it remotely.
Just making sure, because it was just a little,
Yeah.
Are these 3 programs we already have and we are updating them?
Study Island, yes. The other 2, no. Apex Learning, these are what's good about these motions here is that they'll be available to us for the full year. So students, for instance, that we place in alternative setting could do Apex Learning in lieu of a 45-day disciplinary placement. So this can serve multiple functions for the district in addition to the summer credit recovery that we're putting it forward for.
And
Yeah.
these programs have followed the curricular procedures
Yes, yes.
according to the CBA?
Right. I was saying earlier in my comments that we were grateful for the committee that did vet these programs and make the recommendation for their use for the summer programming.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Voting is open. Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. McGregor?
Okay, under personnel, there are 10 items. I'll read them out real quick. Appointment of personnel. Number 2, MOU with Bethel Park Federation of Secretaries. Number 3, acceptance of resignations. Number 4, approval of staffing changes. Number 5, change of assignment. Number 6, school safety reorganization. Number 7, approval of the agreement for school police officer, school security officer employees. Number 8, approval of EDR program 21-22. Number 9, approval of the summer program staffing. And finally, number 10, approval of extended school year staffing.
Mr. McCausland, can we take them all together, or should we
You
take them
can, I
separately?
can group them later. Yeah.
Okay, I need a second for all 10.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. Questions about any one of the items on here? What's the difference in number 9 between certified and non-certified? Because I know at least one of them is a teacher.
So it would be paraprofessionals, and teachers. There.
The certified is teachers and non-certified or?
Paraprofessionals, and there is one speech pathologist on there also.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I have a question about number 4, particularly the kindergarten classes. Have we figured out how we're going to staff them with reducing full to half, and how that's going to work out contractually?
Yes. So you're approving positions to open or close tonight based on that grid that you saw last week. There was one change since last week that I sent you an update via email. But moreover, we got to continue to watch this because as enrollments change and students, we maybe have to come back to the board again for additional openings of positions, depend on what happens with enrollment.
You kind of stole my question, and I think you answered it. Depending on enrollment through, I guess we're going to have to actually have a cutoff with the board too to say we've got to stop at this point in time. Do you anticipate with all the people moving into the district, we'll have a better idea the end of July if we have to open up another position to meet the ratio requirements that the board has asked for?
Yes.
Okay.
I assume this is kind of a constant vigilance.
I just didn't know when we were going to say each academic year we've got to.
Yeah.
We also, remember, our meeting in August is at the beginning of the month. Our meeting is the first week in August.
Right.
Which is usually the reason we do that, in case we have to do
Okay,
staffing
'cause,
changes and so forth.
That was a concern too. We were getting high, as you change those, there were a couple of number changes also,
Right.
starting to up.
Right. So we are aware of small number per building that showed an initial interest but did not fill out registration. So if those numbers turn out to be accurate and they do enroll, then we're going to have to redo what we had proposed in terms of kindergarten staffing.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if we had we have to have this, and oops, if we go to 22 because we don't have you until the third
Yeah.
day of school,
Right.
we can't.
So, we could say July 31st, but somebody moves in, purchases a home, or finishes a construction, we'll take them at any point. There's never a deadline to enroll.
Right, but we're going to have to stop moving teachers. Okay.
Openings. Is that what, yeah, at some point
Yeah,
we have to
that's
commit to the numbers the way they are, yes.
Yeah, I guess that's the word I was looking for. We need a commitment that these are what they are. If they go up, we'll figure it out later, but
Yeah.
we've got to commit at some point.
Yes.
And by the way, thank you. We know that the board had asked for a large lift by this administration in looking at K-3 and the number of students per classroom. So thank you, because that was a large lift and it was done in a very short, timely manner.
Well, lots of people contributed, so yeah, that your gratitude goes out to a lot of administrators that participated in this analysis and shuffling and assignments and postings and golden tickets and the whole thing.
Doc, quick question. The extended school year program, what's the start date for that again, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Lori
Sutton's
or
there?
Sarah? Could somebody unlock their mic?
Extended school year starts on July 6th and runs through July 29th. It's Monday through Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sutton.
I think that was
Mrs.
Mrs.
Oh,
Dr.
Mrs. Shu, thank you, sorry.
Okay, and also on the school safety reorganization, we're closing positions and opening positions, but we're closing 10 positions, but opening 11 positions is the way I noted, right? So we're having more security personnel in the district. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions about any of those 10 items?
Voting is open.
Okay, Mr. Modrak, would you please take Finance Committee tonight?
Yes, Ms. Douglas. Tonight for Finance Committee, we have a total of 6 items. First one is waiver of facility rental fees. The second one will be approval of the Hayes Design Group agreement. The third item will be approval of student services contracts. The fourth item will be acceptance of elementary and secondary school emergency relief grant. The fifth item will be acceptance of elementary and secondary school emergency relief grant. I'm sorry, 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Sorry about that, thanks, Doc. And the sixth item is purchase of buses and vans. The first item, waiver of facility rental fees.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Nagel. Mr. Spicuzza, are you familiar with this?
I am.
Can you talk to us about it?
How much time do you have?
Well, you're our Rotary
A brief
representative.
one.
The Upper St. Clair Bethel Park Breakfast Rotary is in need of a place to. I didn't put it on. I apologize. I keep it off on purpose. You know. The Upper St. Clair Bethel Park Breakfast Rotary is in need of a location to use for their barbecue fundraiser, and the Rotary supports Bethel Park in many ways, including a scholarship to one of our students every year. We have the Interact Club that we're working with right now, and we've done other projects at one of the elementary schools that we donated funds to. I will be abstaining on this motion, but I would highly recommend you vote for it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Voting is open. Motion carries.
Okay, our second item is approval of the Hayes Design Group agreement.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Spicuzza. This is just our agreement with them. That's not the bidding and all of that other stuff.
Correct. This is the agreement to do the summer project
To
work.
do the summer projects, what we talked about last week.
Correct.
And at some point, when is our meeting to approve the bidding? He asked for a special meeting, or don't we
We're
have
not
to?
going to need to do that. We're going to be able to do that on your regular meeting on the 15th.
On the 15th?
Because of the timing of when the ads had to be placed and when we had to do the walkthrough for the bids. So we'll be a few days later than we had originally planned, but it's still not going to throw the project back that far. So we don't need, we were originally talking about a meeting on June 8th, but we will not need that.
Okay. Any questions or comments about this particular item?
Voting is open. Motion carries.
Item number 3, approval of student services contract.
Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nagel. Any comments or questions? Concerns? Okay.
Voting is open.
I think we can probably do 4 and 5 together, Mr. Modrak.
Sure.
Motion carried.
4 and 5 are acceptance of the elementary and secondary school emergency relief 2 grant and 3 grant. These are ESSER 2 grant and ESSER 3 grant.
Need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Spicuzza. Would you like to explain this, Mr. McCausland?
These are the large amounts of money that we have received as part of the Recovery Act that was passed by the federal government. The majority of this money for ESSERS 2, well, almost all of this money for ESSERS 2 is going to be used toward the summer projects that we're doing related to HVAC and flooring issues and window issues. The ESSERS 3 grant funds 20% of that money has to be used toward learning loss. We'll be using that to fund your summer programs for students that were identified with learning loss. And the remainder of the money, we're still working on the grant. The grant just opened yesterday, I believe, and we still have to submit that, but we're planning to use that for the majority of additional capital improvements that have to be made at either NAMS or the Independence Middle School. But I'll be doing a full report in June once we have all of those summarized and how the money is going to be spent, so that you and the public are aware of how that money is going to be utilized.
Could I just ask one question? These are multiple year grants, and I guess you'll find you don't know how that's all broken down at this point, but you'll know that as you go through.
Obviously, a lot of it for ESSERS 3 is going to be used next year because there'll be summer projects that'll have to be done. I think we have till 2024 to utilize those funds. So I'll put that all in the presentation next month, so you have an idea of what the timing for the spending of the grants are.
Thank you.
No problem.
So we don't get the money in increments, we get the money as we spend it?
No, we have to do quarterly reports typically, and then as we're spending it down, then they release the funding to us as we spend it.
Any other questions? Okay.
Voting is open. I think. There it goes. There you go. Motion carries.
In our sixth item, it's purchase of buses and vans. The administration's recommendation to purchase 6 72-passenger buses at a cost of $500,645.16, and 1 van with a lift at a cost of $69,536 from the state contractor Sourcewell, for a total cost of $570,181.16.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Comments or questions? We had a very detailed letter from a Mr. Dan Gribzak asking us why we are purchasing diesel instead of electric, and he offered some very good information about, the cost over a long period of time and different things like that. And Mr. McCausland and Dr. Walsh were able to look into this and provided him with I think a very good response. But I would like the public to know that and to get a brief summary of how you responded, if you don't mind, Dr. Walsh or Mr. McCausland.
Sure. So the motion tonight is rather timely because we have to get in the queue to get buses on time delivered so we can open school in the fall. So the motion is important to carry forward, but the facts of the inquiry about electric buses are intriguing. And since the board is engaged currently in a strategic planning process looking into the future of Bethel Park, this would be a perfect opportunity to include that concept of transforming the fleet over time. Since we make buses purchases annually, perhaps we start replacing buses, and the infrastructure and the staffing to be able to support that movement, both for economic and environmental reasons. But we need to do that study to make sure that it's economically viable. The cost versus the savings versus the infrastructure changes, et cetera. So we'd like to perhaps suggest that the strategic plan entertains this idea and maybe puts it into the long-range plan.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. Any other questions from anybody?
Voting is open. Motion carries.
Ms. Turner?
We have the approval of policies for the second of 3 readings for policy 800.1. The revision of policies for the second of 3 readings for 113.1, 113.2, 113.4, 123, 123.2, and 311. And then we're rescinding policies 411 and 511 because they are going into become all of policy 311. And then finally, the revisions to the policy first reading of 3 for extracurricular activities. And I read the red lines, but Dr. Walsh, do you want to give a?
Yeah, so 122 is recommended by PSBA based on a change to Pennsylvania code that would give students the ability to access school facilities for clubs and organizations that they want to serve in. That wouldn't be necessarily school sanctioned clubs or activities that have an adult sponsor.
Right, yeah, and
so
that was.
we did tweak the language a bit to make sure they would be compliant with all other requirements of folks using our facilities would be required to follow.
And it has to have an adult sponsor. It does not have to be a teacher, but it does have to have an adult sponsor, correct?
Not necessarily. No, our requirements is that they would have approval for the facility, an adult attending, but it wouldn't have to be a sponsor.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, so these will be approved in June then, correct?
Yes.
1 through 3, well, and 4 probably
4
will
at
be
the end of June.
The end of June. Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time we have 2 public comments. Any phone calls?
There are no phone calls.
The first public comment is from a Christina Headley, 5881 Irishtown Road. Will there be a survey to go out to the students in regards to how they are coping during the pandemic? Are resources readily available for counseling or coping techniques? I'm concerned, along with other parents, for our students' mental health during this last year and a half. A year in and out of school, unable to socialize with friends and family. This is a large part of their life taken away and is hard to understand. The increase in screen time for school and social interaction has increased as they try to adapt. I hope that support groups are available for our children. Also, is there feedback for what students liked and disliked in teaching techniques, things that have helped them? I truly hope this is being addressed, as I, along with many other parents in the community, feel this is more important than the recent survey in regards to diversity and inclusion.
Mrs. Dobas, I'd just like to comment on
Yes,
that.
please.
That one of the things that the board approved tonight is programming for summer that includes counseling services that we're going to offer.
Yeah.
So there was a big, in that handout you saw the number of families that requested counseling services for the summer. So we're probably going to have to bring in some additional help to address all those needs. And that's part of the ongoing planning process, but I appreciate the concern and the expression of need, and we're trying everything we can to meet those needs.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So yes, there is help available. Just contact the schools.
Okay, second one. So Nathan Graff, 1060 Surrey Woods Road. Hi, my name is Nathan Graff, and I have 2 children at Lincoln Elementary and 1 child at NAMS. I am concerned about the culture that is developing as a result of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program. Recently, a survey was given to high schoolers in which they were asked what their sexual orientation was. The same survey asked the kids whether they see people that look like themselves in school materials and other questions like this. Has the board considered the fact that many parents do not want their kids subjected to these types of questions? Our family is a Christian family, and we do not consider sexual orientation a matter of choice. When the school asks kids what their sexual orientation is, this suggests that they have a choice as a kid makes is acceptable. As such, the school seems to be engaged in teaching kids morals that maybe disagree with religious beliefs or even non-religious moral beliefs of parents. As far as asking kids whether they see people that look like themselves in school books, etc., I am concerned that this may teach children to think of everything through the lens of skin color. I thought Martin Luther King Jr. stood for creating a colorblind society. By asking these types of questions, it implies that there is racism when there may really be no racism at all, and I am concerned this will create more division and distrust in the school community.
So I'd like to just briefly address that. We did consider, the board as well as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, the parents' input in the participation of their students. That's why all of the students who were surveyed's parents were emailed an opt-out form, giving them the ability to review the surveys and opt their children out of, parents and guardians, opt their children out of taking the survey. So,
Thank you, Mr. Nagel. Any other comments? Does anyone see any other comments? Any other phone calls? No.
No phone call.
Okay. I have a letter that I'd like to read during the board comment section here. It's from Tree Pittsburgh. And Tree Pittsburgh would like to express our deepest appreciation for the new partnership with the Bethel Park School District. Congratulations on joining the One Tree Per Child program family with your first planting held at Neil Armstrong Middle School on April 7th, 2021. Together with about 30 students, the program launched with 160 trees planted this spring, 2021. We're looking forward to a continued partnership along with the support from the Allegheny County Clean Air Fund, the Bethel Park Shade Tree Commission, and the Bethel Park Municipality. Partnerships like these are truly the cornerstone of our organization, and we would not be here without friends like you. Thank you. Kind regards, Danielle Crumren, Executive Director. And also thank you, Mr. Fierce, for helping to organize that. Okay, other board comments at this time?
I have some from Still Center and AIU. For the last couple of years, I've been honored to preside over the recognition night at Still Center as president of the board. This year, I'm extremely excited because the student of the year will be coming from Bethel Park for Still Center. So we're really excited about that event and that student. The student's name is Anthony Pusateri in Culinary Arts Program. So that was great. The other comment I'd like to make is that the AIU has filled the position of the teaching and learning, and that's very important to us because we get a lot of grants. A lot of our grant money has come through the AIU, through the teaching and learning division. And they now, Joanne Jaworski is retiring, and Dr. Jacoby, who some of you may know from Fort Cherry School District, I've been around with her with a lot of organization. She's going to fill that position, and I think she'll be very good at it. So we'll have another person who's had a lot of exposure to getting grants, and that helps us in a lot of our programs. But that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Rule. Other reports or board comments?
Yes, Mrs. Dobis, two comments on committees. The district's wellness committee kicked off yesterday, and we had our first meeting, and I thought it was very informational and off to a really good start. So that was wonderful. Thanks, Anthony, for that. And my part of the strategic planning committee held our meeting yesterday evening. Dr. Jansani and Mr. Modrak in attendance, and it was really a good kickoff meeting. I mean, it's an opportunity to get acclimated to the people, acclimated to the ideas and the thought process of how this is all going to go together. And I would say that it was a really good kickoff meeting. And
thank you.
And Mr. Fierce, sorry about that.
Other comments from the board?
And Mr. Ryer.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nagel,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Turner.
Voting is open.